I think it's an admirable thing for the people to come together. We have a lot of people that come together.
News Channel 3's Darren Waller is the only local reporter in the Gulf Coast region. He joins us now live in Biloxi, one of the hardest hit towns.
Many of the donations from the Coachella Valley are going to end up here at the Convention Center in downtown Houston.
News Channel 3 made sure that your donations got to them.
I volunteered to go because I want to do what I can to help.
We're going to be all right.
It's exclusive. News Channel 3's Darren Waller is the only local reporter in the middle of the relief efforts. He's live tonight in Houston, where a new makeshift town of evacuees has sprouted up. Darren.
Well, John, we are the only local station here in the Houston area. I'm actually live at the Astrodome itself. But earlier today, we took a look at another spot. We've heard a lot about the Astrodome and the 19,000 people that are here. But there's another spot that they've had to use as an overflow. As people leave here or get here, they have to put them somewhere. So what they've done is they've opened up their convention center, and that's where we're going to take you now and show you what it's like over there.
We're going to be all right.
Savannah is just one of about 2,000 people who've taken up residence here in the Houston Convention Center. This place usually hosts seminars, conventions, and concerts. Now it's been transformed to accommodate and process thousands of men, women, and children displaced in the wake of a natural disaster.
Well, of course, the George R. Brown Convention Center is like the third level of support that we're offering for these survivors. They came into the Astrodome first. That became overcrowded. We went into the Reliant area. That became overcrowded, so we put people over here.
Gene and Michael Rumfellow live in New Orleans. They evacuated to a nearby hotel in the midst of the storm where they thought they would be safe. Soon, the 200 people inside would grow weary and afraid as the water level rose and their supplies ran out.
But they started to talk about the hurricane. I couldn't believe it. And of course, then it got a little frightening. And then after that, we stayed there for, I don't know, a number of days. Then they said we had to come down to Houston.
The Astrodome is at capacity, nearly 19,000 people. That means moving additional people to the convention center.
At last count, we had processed almost 9,000 people through here, getting them registered for facilities that offer them things like food and clothing and shelter, just a quiet place to be.
As more people arrive and time passes, the need for more volunteers, security, and donations increase. Many of the donations from the Coachella Valley are going to end up here at the Convention Center in downtown Houston, where thousands of evacuees are now calling home. For most, the accommodations are as close to home as they're going to find, so far away from Louisiana. There are comfortable beds, food, even hairstylists, and a special place for baby needs. Almost everything they need, except the one thing that Michael says that they need the most.
The only thing that a lot of people are disappointed with is that FEMA has not sent a representative to speak to the people here. They've registered people, but they refuse to speak to them, and we believe that if someone had come just with a few reassuring words, it would alleviate a lot of the anxiety here.
And some of that anxiety is being relieved, at least here at the Astrodome. Today they locked down the entire facility so they could register a lot of these people that are inside so they could actually start delivering these debit cards. Those debit cards, we're told from some people, is going to range between $1,500 and $2,000, which is cash that many of these people are very, very much in desperate need of. Now, as far as the convention center, they haven't been given that word yet, but one person there at the convention center that is one of the volunteer coordinators there says that they're going to do it tomorrow. So that's a little bit of relief for the people here and possibly for them tomorrow at the convention center as well. I'm Darren Waller, live in Houston. John?
Darren, keep up the good work there. We hope to hear more from you from Houston as we continue to cover this amazing storm and now all of these evacuees, hundreds of thousands of them. Thank you, Darren. Well, some of News Channel 3 exclusive. We've taken you to Houston to see what life is like for evacuees staying at the Astrodome. Now we're in the middle of the hurricane devastation. News Channel 3's Darren Waller is the only local reporter in the area. He joins us live tonight in Biloxi, Mississippi with a look at what's happening there after the storm. Darren.
Good evening, John. Yeah, those stories that we heard from the Astrodome, they were touching and they were sad. And even watching them on CNN and all of the other shows, I don't think they can really prepare anybody for the reality of just walking down these streets right here. Now, we can tell you that This waterfront resort town is actually under a mandatory evacuation at this time, but just a glance around the city explains why there's nobody here. This part of the city is completely destroyed. The boardwalk has crumbled, the roads, they're barely accessible, and nearly every building has lost at least the first 2 stories, if they're even still standing. Most of the multi-million-dollar casinos here also a total loss. And the beach, it's littered with the belongings of the residents and the pieces of their shattered lives. Lifetime residents of the Gulf Coast here say that they have never even seen anything like this.
Never seen anything like this. All of my friends are moving away. It's really amazing.
And John, it is very amazing when you walk around out here. I can show you right behind us here, this green and white building that you see behind that big tree there. That's the hospital, or what's left of the hospital. And if we can swing around here to the left, this is an apartment complex. The entire bottom 2 levels of that also completely destroyed. Just everything that you look around here completely destroyed. Debris just scattered in the streets. Now the military is here in force. There's the Navy, the Army National Guard, and law enforcement agencies from all over the country, literally. And there is no water out here. The water is actually contaminated. There's no power. There's really nothing to support life out here at this time. Now, we do know that Mississippi Power has restored power to a majority of the residents in the area, with the exception of the hardest hit areas like this here in Biloxi. Now, it's going to take a long time and a whole lot of money to get life back into this part of the city and some of the neighborhoods outside. Coming up all new at 6, we're actually going to talk to some families that lost their homes but still have a glimmer of hope. I'm Darren Waller reporting live from Biloxi, Mississippi. John?
Okay, thank you for that, Darren Waller. News Channel 3 is the only local station in the Gulf bringing you live reports from the areas hit hardest by Katrina. So stay with us for continuing coverage. We'll have more at 6 o'clock tonight. You can also go to KESQ.com.
And now we have our News Channel 3 exclusive that I told you about a moment ago. Most every hurricane victim you talk to has an amazing story of survival, and the people of Biloxi, Mississippi are certainly no different. They were right in the middle of it. Tonight, our News Channel 3 cameras caught one man's fight against a horrifying hurricane. News Channel 3's Darren Waller is the only local reporter in the Gulf Coast region. He joins us now live in Biloxi, one of the hardest hit towns. Darren.
That's right, John. There are a lot of sad stories to be told of loss, but there are also a lot of stories of redemption that oftentimes go untold. Today, we found both of those stories in just one neighborhood here in Biloxi. Most of the stories from the Gulf Coast are similar to the ones here. Homes damaged, lives torn apart. On this block in eastern Biloxi, most of the homes are damaged but still standing. Turn the corner, however, and it's a totally different story.
I can still see it in my mind just like it was yesterday. You know, I can come home, go to the front door and turn the TV on, watch, you know.
The 3-bedroom home that Carl shared with his family for 12 years is gone, along with it everything that he owned.
I got these shoes from a Red Cross worker, as a matter of fact. And I had one pair of shoes. The other guy came by, gave us a hot meal one day when we were working in our yard, and I said I had no shoes, and he took me into his truck and gave me his out of his bag.
If you still have any doubts about the fury of this storm, take a look at this car. Buried up to its axle in debris here in this yard, embedded into that tree and fence. It was once parked way over here in front of this garage before the storm hit. But even among all the loss and tragedy, there are some redeeming moments, like the story of Eddie Schaefer.
Eddie over there saved him. That's the word I got straight from them. So
it was starting to get pretty bad, and we could look in the back here, and we could see the water coming up. And eventually, it was probably about 10 foot of water right where we're standing right now. And I looked across the way, and there was 5 people hanging off the roof over there. And it was people that I've grown up with, through them all my life.
And they were clinging to the roof when Eddie and them spotted them, jumped in a boat that they had in the backyard. There 2 of them come by and picked them up.
He's modest about his own heroism, but admits the worst was probably in store for his friends if he hadn't acted when he did.
We wouldn't have been here. I don't think they'd have made it.
For as many tragic stories as there are to tell, there are just as many of heroism that will go untold. Eddie would like to keep it that way, but neighbors will disagree.
To me, that was fantastic. Somebody ought to give him some kind of award.
Darren Waller, News Channel 3.
I think it's an admirable thing for the people to come together. We have a lot of people that come together.
News Channel 3's Darren Waller is the only local reporter in the Gulf Coast region. He joins us now live in Biloxi, one of the hardest hit towns.
Many of the donations from the Coachella Valley are going to end up here at the Convention Center in downtown Houston.
News Channel 3 makes sure that your donations got to them.
I volunteered to go because I want to do what I can to help.
We are the